So we're going to take a few minutes and we're going to run fairly rapidly through some of the activities of the center, and then we will have some occasion to think about some of our good friends who are no longer with us, and then some good friends who are with us, and we want to celebrate with awards. So I'm going to begin with this image, which is a new sign. Now, you may not have noticed it when you walk down the sidewalk. It's right in front of the tent, but it's new. It doesn't look that much different. It's the same color, design is similar, but there is something new, and that is a couple of names. Lawrence T. Garrity and Douglas R. Clark Center for Near Eastern Archaeology. That name was invented not by Larry Garrity or Doug Clark. As you can see in the line now below the sign, an endowment established by C. Fred Cornforth, and you'll notice his birth date and, unfortunately, very sadly, about a month ago, his passing away. I talked to Fred Cornforth, who's been a longtime supporter of the center, and I said, we want to name the Center for Near Eastern Archaeology after you. We want this to be the C. Fred Cornforth Center for Near Eastern Archaeology. He would have absolutely nothing to do with it. As much as Larry Garrity and I leaned on him, he would not change his mind. I talked to him at one point and he said, both of my archaeologists, my favorite archaeologists and teachers, are going to give me a D- for not following instructions. And he wanted to keep this name. So it is here, and it is what the name is, and it's going to be that way. So in any case, we thank Fred Cornforth for that. I'm going to come back to Fred in a minute because of his commitments and because of his recent passing. This slide will show archaeological activity in the country of Jordan. And you can see by all of the sites represented here, and there are actually more. We could talk about Hespan. It's still operating, but CNEA is not directly tied to it. But in any case, this is why a number of people have thought that we should be called Little Jordan at CNEA, and we're okay with that. In fact, we're going to try to celebrate that next fall with the Department of Antiquities General Director here for our autumn archaeology discovery weekend. But you can see the work that's been done. You can see at least the location. And we'll not spend more time with that except to say that the Wadi Feinan one, the one at the southern part that you saw on the previous slide, represents a donation from Tom Levy of the University of California, San Diego, to our center of 35 tons of research material. I can repeat that, 35 tons. Most of it is in this patio right out here. It will be enclosed, but in any case, most of it's here. Some of it is in this building, some of it is in our two modular buildings too. That has represented one of the major contributions to our archaeological research reach. Another feature that was excavated at Tel El Ameri, Jordan, at one of the sites you saw identified on the map, is what is known as a dolmen burial. The large stones, you can see that meter stick, so you know what's about 3 feet. So these are large stones on the sides, top, and ends. These sat on the ground. They sat on they were not buried, they weren't below, and they were for secondary burials. Of the thousands of dolmens from southern Jordan up to the British Isles, a handful have any remains in them that are related to human beings. Ours is probably the best. I mean, we will have the specialist who knows here in the fall. And at least he talks about the fact, and he built his PhD dissertation on dolmens around ours. So this one is significant, and I will show you why. This may be a little macabre to see all of those skulls and pieces of pottery and bones. 25 to 28 individuals in this one tomb. Secondary burial, they died elsewhere. They were the flesh desiccated off, and they were brought to this place, almost like bringing one's bones to one's ancestors. One can think about that with a biblical analogy. But in any case, and these artifacts, and the bones that were found of these individuals are in a lab next to us, have experienced some analysis, but we'll see some more as well. That project is coming to a focus, and we think that we'll have even a small conference on this campus with contributors from a wide range of disciplines to the study of that, of those remains. The Cohen family collection. This was a new arrival, and Sean has been our contact person here. I don't remember the date when this came, but you can see some people gathered around it. Raul and Dr. Bramlett and Luke are gathered around these new arrivals. It's like having Christmas on a regular basis because the Cohens, the doctors Cohen, are continuing to supply and send their materials to us. This picture is where you are sitting about 2 or 3 days ago. Any sense of the clutter in the photo? Those who work in this lab know the sense of the clutter. This has all been cleared out because we wanted a space, a cleared space for this presentation. This shows several projects going on, and you'll see some people. You'll see one of our, actually 2 of our awardees are in the left side of the picture there. And then I think we see Maribel in the back, Sean and Raul are in the right, working on various projects. This next picture looks fairly ordinary. It's a library. It has books. They have labels. This is not ordinary for us. It has taken us, what, months, right? To get to this place with all of the labels and so on. And of course, Terri and Howard and others have been part of this project. What are there, 300 now that we have the final labels on? I tried to count this morning, but it was something close. So this has been a long project. We will have room in our library for between 4,000 and 5,000 volumes, the lower end of that probably. And we've begun. It's a long-term process that has been handled by a number of us. Another thing that goes on that Caitlin, who is our curatorial assistant, is directing, and that is our archaeology adventures for school-age children. We also, this particular one, you'll notice that there are smaller children than school age because this was homeschool. So what, 35 kids maybe, and about that many parents? Close, something like that. And so one of the people that has been working with this program, Craig Lesh, he and Caitlin have been working together. This is coming over to Caitlin, and she will be maintaining this. Working with kids, what was the youngest one? 6 months. Okay. She was not digging. We don't have the insurance to cover a 6-month excavating, but up to what? Was 11, something like that. So this is not typical, but this group is such a great group to work with, and Caitlin has really created this relationship. We'll see them again, and we'll adapt. We'll make it work so that people can learn about archaeology. And here are some of them at work, just in our excavation unit, just behind you. Another important activity of the center here is our annual Autumn Archaeology Discovery Weekend. And as I mentioned before, it's on Petra. I included the poster on the left and then a 1/4-page ad that goes into a journal, Near Eastern Archaeology, on the right. We also have a full-page ad coming in BAR, in Biblical Archaeology Review. But I put this one in here because you can see the speakers. Okay, it may be hard for you to read from where you are, but the Director General of the Department of Antiquities, Fadi Balawi, there is a specialist at Penn State who works on the Garden Pool Complex in Petra, a leisure space. Kent is going to do some history of the Nabateans. Glenn Corbett, we kind of grew up with him as Joey, but in any case, Glenn Corbett, who's the editor of Biblical Archaeology Review, will talk about the restoration efforts in Petra. Cynthia Finlayson works on the monastery. Those of you who've been there have hiked to the monastery. It's a spectacular place. And she's working on that, so she's going to talk about that. And then an anthropologist, Megan Perry, will talk to us about the living and the dead in Petra. She studies the dead to find out what it was to live in the space. The next 3 slides are in memoriam. Okay, I have three of them. The first one is Daniel Hantman. I think Marcia Gilman may be online and listening in. We hope so. We wish her the best. Um, oh, and you're here, Marcia. I didn't see you. Maybe it was the lights. Anyway, so thank you for coming, and we honor Daniel. He has been such a special, you have been, as a couple, such a special contribution to us, working in the advisory council, contributions. And this, I think this is the picture I like the best to represent Dan as Mr. Riverside. Is that right? Would it be the best choice? Good. And thank you for coming. I attended the memorial service. I was in Jordan, and it was, I think, 3 o'clock in the morning, but it was such a special service in a synagogue with Christian and Buddhist participating as well. It was incredible. Really wonderful service. Another person that may not be known to many of you here is Marilyn Tolson, who spent days, weeks, months, maybe several years working in this lab, recording and doing curation work. And you can see she's putting numbers on these artifacts. This is some of the 9,000 that we've been working with here. And then the other one is Fred Cornforth, who passed away early in the morning on March 15. I attended his memorial service 2 weeks ago today in Boise, Idaho. It was really moving. This guy is the epitome of caring for other people. Built a business, a billion-dollar business, building affordable housing in 16 or 17 states. He has funded and supported 44, count them, 44 orphanages overseas. He is the epitome of the giving soul, and we miss him. Okay, some awards. Okay, so these are past recipients with the years. There's one year, 2020, some of you may remember that was COVID, and we actually had the awards labeled for April of 2020, but we couldn't give them to these individuals, Suha and Gary Huffaker and Vera Kopecki, until 2021. And so you see several people listed here. Audrey Schaefer, who unfortunately is not able to be here. This may be the first homecoming weekend that she's missed. And unfortunately, she's not able to be here. Randall Wisby, former president, and Larry Garrity, also former president. And then 2022, Norman Jurgen, vice president for advancement, and Darla, right here, who is our right-hand publicist and who makes us all look better than we look. So thank you, Darla, for your work. And then last year, Carolyn Waldron, who was here a minute ago, and Daniel and Marcia, award recipients last year. This year, two awards, 3 people. I like to keep couples together. So Terri Shaw and Howard Bunte, I'm going to show a few slides about their work. And then I'm going to go to the second award that's here and talk about that awardee. And then we'll have Terri and Howard come up and receive them, okay? So we owe so much to Terri and Howard, and they have lived such interesting lives. I'm not going to read all of the text here, but you do need to see that there's an airplane there. That was important for all kinds of good reasons. I don't know, Howard, if the airplane is more important than the train that's coming up in the next slide. They're together, about the same? Okay. So these people have been active in their careers, but also in their retirement. And volunteering is their name. That's what they do. So they've been doing a number of things, including flying. You'll see Howard at the controls, I think, in this particular slide. They travel a lot, and so they will be seen at places like Olympia, Knossos, etc., Athens. They have spent a good deal of time working at CNEA. And these, I think, have morphed a couple of times. They started with the artifacts here in this lab. And then the second step was with coins, part of the artifacts here. Terri became our resident numismatist. She is our coin expert and will be published as a numismatist. So, I mean, that's right. It has shown up, but it'll show up again. We'll see that. We'll see more of that. And then they've worked on the library, and so and those were photos and slides supplied by Terri and Howard. And so I have a couple, and so you can see them at work on this counter, and you can see a couple of other people there. You can see Carolyn on the left, and then there is Mary Boyd. She's going to come up in a minute in what I say about Denise Herr. But there they are, a close-up. I think this is one of the best pictures of Terri and Howard and their contributions to us, and the sense of wonder and curiosity that they just keep living. I mean, this is one of my favorite pictures, but I've got another one too, so it's coming. Another photo shows Terri along with Christina Viramontes from the library working to get the barcodes on these books, working toward the labels. This took a long time. And here is my other favorite one, okay? So here you are at work again on these books. The second award goes to Denise Herr. You will also notice that there is an end date on the lifespan of Denise Herr. Very sad. Many of you know Denise Herr. She was not connected so much with CNEA as with the archaeology in which CNEA was involved. And so her award actually is worded differently in that it's tied to her excavation expertise. But I want to say a couple things about her. In this picture, she is in the center, front. But there are others here too. Okay, so if you look carefully, right above her 2 rows is a very young looking Camp Bramlett. Okay, this was in 2000. Okay, and then you can actually look toward the left of the picture, second row, second one in from the left, is Kathleen Garrity, Larry Garrity's sister, and cousin to Carolyn, who was here a minute ago. And if you go up to the top and you go over to the right, second row down on the right is Mary Boyd. We'll be coming back to her. You'll also see Carolyn, Carolyn Waldron, and Julie Cormack in this photo. So some familiar faces, but I'm centered on Denise Herr. Denise was I really should have tabulated all the seasons she was there. It's probably something in the neighborhood of 13 or 14 seasons out of 18 that we excavated at the site. And she worked as pottery registrar, object registrar. She's working with her husband, Larry Herr, who's reading the pottery. She's doing the recording and doing the processing. And then she's giving one of our learning station visits to students and others on the dig. And my wife, Carmen, is waiting in the wing to talk about objects. So Denise here is talking about pottery. Carmen will talk about objects. And here are several of us together. Larry Garrity on your left, your right rather. And then in the center is His Royal Highness Prince Rad, who is the Chamberlain in the royal family. And he became a part of our excavations back in the early 70s and has been a friend since. And this is in 2000. Terrific human being and a great friend. And here we are gathered around him. This is Denise in the picture on the left in what I think most archaeologists, most square supervisors remember, because she was quality control. She was the queen of commas. She was the one who made sure that what was recorded fit so that her husband Larry could come back to them and the rest of us can come back to those sheets and understand them. People use different language. She made sure they used consistent language. She was the editor. And then in the picture on the right, she is giving a recitation at one of our talent nights toward the end of our season. This is she on the upper right and her husband Larry, my wife Carmen and I, and then their son Garrick and his wife Stephanie and the youngest of 3 children that they have. This is taken in Wasilla, Alaska. And this is where Denise and Larry, spent a good deal of their time with their family, and then part of it at Burman University in Alberta. Denise is pictured here. she and Mary Boyd, next to her, became a little irritated with an article that came out by a literary specialist. Her field is English. And so she read this article in which the author was describing a biblical story from the book of Judges, the story of Abimelech. And if you remember the story, you remember that Abimelech died when a woman from the top of the tower of Thebez, don't know where Thebez is, a woman threw down a millstone, a milling stone, on top of Abimelech's head. And Abimelech, if you don't remember any of it, you might remember this part, that he said to his armor bearer, "Pull out your sword, thrust me through. I do not want it to be said of me that I've died at the hands of a woman." That's what we remember the best. And now, Denise and Mary said, the author said, a woman could not have done this. A woman could not have carried a milling stone to the top of the tower. That was not what Denise and Mary thought, because we handle hundreds of these things. And so they invented an annual event, not going to the top of the Tower of Thebes, but going to the top of our partially restored 4-room building and throwing millstones. And so you have and it's only women, only women allowed for this, okay? And it happened several years in a row. And it happened to an ill-fated watermelon named Abimelech. Okay, so that was not a good way to end the story. But this is Denise. I'm going to share something in a minute, and I only have a couple more slides. But I want to share something that I think captures Denise Herr in particularly pointed ways. This is the Last Chance Saloon. It's not a place that any of us frequent often, but it's a fun place. It's near Drumheller, Alberta. We had all visited the Royal Tyrrell Dinosaur Museum. We've done it several times. It's a terrific place. And then we came here, and we did go into the saloon. Okay, we had something to eat. Nothing other than vegetarian for drinking, though. Okay. So here we take this picture. This was before any of us knew that Denise would be diagnosed with cancer within a couple of months. So there's something about last chance. I don't know that I like that, but it is the place where we met. A couple months later, they did come to our house, to my house on the Olympic Peninsula. We spent several days together. And then after that, this was in September, October, it was after that she was diagnosed with cancer and with other complications that came from it, including kidney failure. She passed away on New Year's Eve, 2023. So these lines. Denise was an English teacher and university administrator for much of her career at Burman University in Lacombe, Alberta, Canada. But her claim to fame, with hundreds of archaeology buffs, students, specialists, and big staff, was an infectious sense of humor, an impeccable control of the English language, and intrepid tenacity for helping scores and scores of square supervisors stay on task with their notebooks. With the poet Barbara Keener Schenk, we share our warmest sympathies and best wishes to Denise's family through the lines. I hope God has a meadow in the sky for us who leave the earth too young to die. I will compose myself. I also attended her memorial service. I was in Jordan, and for me, the time was from midnight until 4 in the morning, a 4-hour memorial service, which was absolutely spectacular. My wife was able to go, to go, but I was not. So I end, and I'm just going to leave this slide up here, and if you want to be in contact with us. But I want to ask Terri and Howard to come up. I will mail Denise's to Larry, and let me read this award. So, CNEA Archaeology Award, presented to Terri Shaw and Howard Bunte in recognition for years, I mean, we haven't quite got to decades, but we're close, okay? For years of faithful participation in and support for the archaeology program at La Sierra University. The Lawrence T. Garrity and Douglas R. Clark Center for Near Eastern Archaeology proudly honors you with this achievement award. April 20, 2024. Thank you so much. We got to get a photo here. And then, as I mentioned, I will send the other award. It's time to close, but I do need to thank a few people. I need to thank the IT team huddled over here behind cameras and computer equipment, who troubleshoot and who help us think not only locally, but globally. I mean, Zoom goes everywhere, right? So we can go globally because of the IT team. I need to thank the physical plant and custodial teams, especially Cynthia. She's the one who cleans after us and makes us look better too, and who makes this room look better than in the photo you saw, okay? I also need to thank the CNEA team. So we're talking about staff and students and volunteers. I want to thank the supporters of CNEA and the Cohen family for the artifacts and the stories behind them, and other donors as well. So thank you. And thank you all for coming and joining us for this event. Appreciate it.